Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. How important is it to know the past when considering the future? Thank you for tuning in today. I'm glad you're here. Wesley Mission has been providing the community services as part and parcel of our Christian mission for over 200 years. We're looking to continue and develop our work into the future. We do look back at our history with gratitude and seek insight to help guide the direction of our next steps. Looking back at past events can help to provide a context and understanding of where we've come from and give direction and meaning to the purpose of our work and ourselves today. My guest, Stuart Piggin, is a university lecturer, historian, and knows this all too well. He's recently released a book called The Fountain of Public Prosperity, which tells of the stories of evangelical Christians in a particular period of Australia's history. You could call it a very defining period. And I'll speak with Stuart to find out more about his book and some of the people he's written about. We'll also be joined by Doeland and Naomi with the Wesley Impact Band to sing You've Captured My Heart. Today I begin a series which focuses on the book of Hebrews in the New Testament. The main message is that Jesus Christ is before all things. I joined Wesley Mission in 2006 as only the 9th superintendent since the development of the central mission model. I'm in no doubt that it's a position that I hold and it's a great privilege to do so, but to lead an organisation which serves the community in the way that we do, and to also work with our staff, our volunteers, connecting with people who we seek to serve in relevant and meaningful way. Let's take a look together at this short historical piece, looking at the work of Wesley Mission.
The origins of Wesley Mission stretch back to the first Methodist church established in Sydney in 1812. Since our foundation, we have been a community of hope and grace, providing care to those who are frail, lonely, disconnected and marginalised in Sydney and beyond. And throughout our history, we have been guided by a strong line of faithful, passionate leaders. 1812 was a time when liberty, grace and possibility were alive in the early colony. Convinced of the need for someone to guide them, the early Methodists wrote a compelling and successful appeal to the British Methodist Conference to send a minister to the new colony. The Reverend Samuel Lee arrived in Australia in 1815. In 1884, W.G. Taylor was appointed superintendent. A new word and deed policy was developed, committed evangelism coupled with serving the practical needs of the community. It was he who coined the term, a living Christ for a dying world. Taylor retired after 22 years and the Reverend P.J. Stephen took on superintendency. He was followed by the Reverend Samuel J. Hoban, who led Wesley Mission from 1915 to 1921 through the difficult years of the First World War. The Reverend H.C. Foreman succeeded him for a 10-year term until 1931. The Reverend R.J. Williams was superintendent for the next 6 years, serving as leader throughout the Depression. In 1938, the Reverend F.H. Raywood was appointed superintendent, leading until 1958, when the Reverend Alan Walker took up the position. A passionate and outspoken leader, Walker used the media extensively and attracted both praise and criticism for his dynamic leadership style. Into these shoes, the young Gordon Moyes stepped. It was in 1978 that the Reverend Gordon Moyes began his 27-year tenure of superintendency, overseeing the enrichment of Wesley Mission's media profile and continuing the strong word and deed ministry of Wesley Mission. In 1988, Moyes oversaw the extensive redevelopment of the old Lyceum Theatre in Pitt Street, Sydney. A new building was designed and built, containing a theatre, church, head office and conference centre. Gordon Moyes retired from superintendency in 2005 and Keith Garner took up the role, a position that he continues in today. It is remarkable to see how things have grown at Wesley Mission. Today, more than 2,000 staff and 3,000 volunteers continue in the footsteps of those who have gone before, caring for those in need and sharing the generous love of Jesus Christ without fear or favour.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
I don't feel safe in this house. It's not our home. The people here are scary. I'm worried something bad will happen. That's why I'm hiding here with my mum and my little sister. They're scared too. We don't want to stay, but Mum says there's nowhere else to go. If we leave, we have to sleep outside. I just want to run away.
In New South Wales, 18% of people experiencing homelessness are children. Your donation of $49 can help give children like Liam and Mia a safe place to sleep and keep them off the streets. Because children should not run away, children should run and play. Please donate now at wesleymission.org.au.
Now, please don't hesitate to be in touch. If you'd like to find out more about our work here at Wesley Mission, or if we can help in any way we can, our website and email address are on the screen now. My guest today is Director of History of Christian Thought and Experience at Macquarie University and the Head of Christian Thought at the Department of the Australian College of Theology. Stuart Piggin's area of expertise is clearly history, and so he would have been interested in some of that history that's just gone a few moments ago. And he's written extensively this book, The Fountain of Public Prosperity, looking at evangelicals, evangelical Christians who've helped to shape our nation. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you, Keith. It's very nice to be speaking to the head of a movement which dates its history back to John Wesley, great hero of mine. So thank you for having me.
And a hero of mine too. Tell me why you chose that title, because I'm interested by the title.
The Fountain of Public Prosperity?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I was going to call it Australia's Missing Story, because I came to write this book because I noticed that most secular historians had left out so much of the Christian story. And it just was repeatedly leaving out the Christian aspect of things. So I was going to call it Australia's Missing Story. But one of my colleagues said that's far too negative, the title. So I was reading a sermon written by one William Haygarth, who came to Australia in the 1850s, and he actually ministered in the outback. And he spoke about the impact of Christianity on the reform of the convict system and the assistance of people in the outback and so on. And he came up with this idea that Christianity is the fountain of public prosperity.
So, and it's got a good insight to it there, in that it's a positive contribution to society, isn't it? You know,
yes.
That title picks that up, doesn't it?
It is. It's marvellous. And I think that this particular brand of Christians, the evangelical Christians, this is a vital Christian movement. This is not a nominal Christian movement. This is a movement of Christians who believe that they had to make a difference. And they had to make a difference, I think, in three areas. They had to make for greater justice and freedom in the community, so they contributed to the development of that in Australia, and Australia was one of the great nations where those things were developed. But also they were interested in morality and in civic righteousness, but also in compassion, which is the great Wesleyan influence, of course. But
and I think this evangelical coming to Australia, it works, doesn't it? Because we're a new nation, not the only nation, because there's been one here for thousands of years, but a new nation trying to find its purpose. Yes. It fits into that also well. I think that's
a very important insight that you've just made, because I think that in actual fact what happened was that the type of Christianity which was first launched onto the Australian scene was this form of Christianity, which arose from the evangelical revival with Wesley and people like this. And it had a big job to do. because you had to do something for convicts, you had to do something for Aboriginal people, you had to do something to take the gospel to the South Seas. So these were very challenging mission fields. And so you had to have a very strong form of Christianity to do it.
And justice, of course, was right on our doorstep, the need for it, wasn't it, with these people?
Well, with the convicts. You had this dramatic reform of the convict system. I think if you look at what evangelical Christians did, they thought that transportation was more merciful than hanging, and therefore they supported transportation. And then they supported the reformation of transportation, the reform of it, because they wanted to reform everything. They wanted to do it better. And then they supported the abolition of it. So they sort of understood the way that history works, and they just did what they could at the time.
And I think of Edward Eager every time he talked like that, because he was both those things. Somebody that shipped out from Liverpool to here, and then eventually becoming one of the great people fighting for abolition.
Well, you've got some great names. I was very interested in your historical introduction, and one of the great Methodists that came to mind when I was thinking of that was William Binnington Boyce, who was the one who made the Australian Methodist movement a separate part from Britain. The Methodist Church was the first church of all the denominations to break links with Britain and set up as an independent church. And William Binnington Boyce, he was an amazing guy. He was on the Senate of the University of Sydney, but he translated the Kaffir languages. He worked out how to do this when he was in Africa. He came up with an amazing way of translating languages. He did it very quickly. Very bright boy, and very compassionate, and very able to organise the Methodists to become a great force. So that in the second half of the 19th century, Methodism was the branch of Christianity which was setting the pace for all the others.
The question I want to ask you before we finish is this, really. You're involved in church history, and history in general is important to you. I don't think it's high on the list of many younger people's thinking today, and I think it ought to be. How do we fire people up to understand where we've come from? Because I think it's important, isn't it, to understand who we are?
It's not only important, it's absolutely essential. I don't think if you understand the past, you can possibly understand the present, let alone have any hope for the future. I mean, when you think of, I've just been thinking of the relationship between this and science, with dementia, for example, with people who don't have any memory. They can't have any vision for the future. And so this is a really serious matter. I mean, history is the way of understanding reality. And if you don't have an historical perspective, you don't really know what reality is. You've got no idea. You're living in fantasy land.
Stuart, it's a delight to talk to you. I'm going to ask that you come on again. I'm going to ask our guys to get you again. Double the fee next time, you know. You come, or maybe half the fee, who knows. Come and talk to us further, because I think this is such an important area of our work. And I wish you well with this book. I hope people will get onto our website, find the link and purchase the book for themselves. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Keith.
Please welcome now Matt Doeland and Naomi Miller with the Wesley Impact Band to sing You've Captured My Heart.
What more can I say? You have me completely. What more can I do but love you completely? What more can I say? You have me completely. What more can I do but love you completely? You've captured my heart. You've captured my heart. Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. You've captured my heart. You've captured my heart. Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Whisper in the night, I love you. I love you. You never let me go. and oh, my soul rejoice. Oh, I love you, and oh, my heart will sing. I love you, you've captured my heart, you've captured my heart. Oh, I love you, oh, I love you, you've captured my heart, you've captured my heart. Oh, I love you, oh, I love you, you've captured my heart, you've captured my heart. Oh, I love you, oh, I love you, you've captured my heart, you've captured my heart. Oh, I love you, oh, I love you.
Experience the Galilee and the towns and cities where Jesus was raised and called his home. Capernaum, Nazareth, Tabgha, Magdala, Caesarea Philippi, Bethsaida, Tiberias, and of course the Sea of Galilee all feature in this 6-part series as Keith Garner explains the first century context of biblical events.
Jesus was born during a time of change in the political and economic leadership of this region. Fishermen around a lakeside was really one of the big businesses. Why Jesus? Why didn't people ignore him? Why did they take him seriously? And what are the questions we should be asking today if we're going to take Jesus seriously?
The Man of Galilee is available now and comes with a study guide for leaders, small groups and individuals. For more, visit wesleymission.org.au.
Well, I'm going to look at Hebrews, begin a series from Hebrews, and we start at the very beginning, the first chapter of Hebrews, reading verses 1 to 4, and then parts of chapter 2. So let me read from chapter 1. In the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he's spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things and through whom also he made the universe. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. After he provided purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty in heaven. So he became as much superior to the angels as the name he has inherited as superior to theirs. And then reading in chapter 2, verses 5 to 12. It is not to angels that he subjected the world to come, but about which we're speaking. But there is a place where someone has testified. What is mankind that you're mindful of them? The Son of Man that you care for him? You made them a little lower than the angels. You crowned them with glory and honor and put everything under his feet. In putting everything under them, God left nothing that is not subject to them. Yet at present we do not see everything subject to them. But we do see Jesus, who was made lower than the angels for a little while, now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. In bringing many sons and daughters to glory, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through what he suffered. But the one who makes people holy, and those who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. He says, I will declare your name to my brothers and sisters. In the assembly, I will sing your praises. you know, when you read a document, a book, or even a letter, it's important to recognise that the intended audience, who they are, who will be the recipients of the document, and all of that is important. It can assist us in understanding what the content is all about. That links in with my conversation with Stuart just a few moments ago. Hebrews was written for a Jewish audience, and we should discover over the next 5 weeks as we explore it together that the main point is that Jesus Christ is superior to all that has gone before. He's superior to the prophets who preceded him. And the prophets had such an important part to play in the thinking, in the development of ideas, and in so many ways for the people of God. He is superior to the angels and the spiritual beings. Now, this gets us into a realm that we don't easily talk about, but it's an important one in the setting of the words that were written here. And it's the dawn of a new day, very significant for the Jews. A new day that the Messiah represented, the Messianic age, an age when God's message would not only be thought of in terms of words, but manifest in one person, in a human being, in the person of Jesus Christ. You see, Jesus Christ is more than merely a message. When I read those first 2 verses, I get very conscious of the importance of this, that we're living in an in-between age. God spoke through our ancestors, through the prophets, but in these last days, and this is a very significant time. Verse 3 in the same passage tells us the Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation. The glory of God, now not simply something we talk about, not simply we reflect upon, but one that is seen in the person of Jesus Christ. And then in chapter 2, in that second chapter that I referred to and read just a little earlier, we read that Jesus is not only Saviour and Lord, he is brother. That in itself is a manifestly new concept for many, many people who see it. The one who makes people holy, and those who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. What a picture of the relationship that we have with God in Christ. So this early part of Hebrews is important. God's glory is not our best, as it were, raised to a new level. I mean, that would be one thing. It's not the improvement of what we already have found in life, but it is that sense of the glory of God, which is now lifted to an almost impossible to even approach situation. So not improvement, not self-improvement, as we heard a little earlier, that the evangelical contribution to our own Australian context and around the world is not a message that says, come on, let's improve what we are. But it is that gift which God gives to us that makes human life reach possibilities that we could never even imagine, above all that we ask or think, according to the Spirit that is within us. That's the message of the good news. It's the message that has changed people from generation to generation. It's one that can change us today. It's one that can change you. And we can find ourselves in a situation where things become different because of this great gift that God has made to us in Jesus Christ. Let's take it to ourselves and embrace it afresh and anew as we know what it is to recognize. And in coming weeks, I'm looking forward to opening up this book of Hebrews and all it might have to say to us. May God lead us into a closer place because of Jesus Christ.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A 5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send us an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on social media. You can also connect through Keith's blog and stay up to date on all the latest news and information from Wesley Mission, wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Stuart and found the discussion about Australia's Christian history stimulating. Now, Stuart's book, The Fountain of Public Prosperity, is a good collection of stories and people who've helped to shape Australia's national identity at a particular time in history. Not the present, not the very earliest times, but those times as they developed into that 20th century context. As we look to the future, it's good to look at our past and consider the foundations on which our present is built. I did like those words at the end that Stuart gave us that reminds us of the importance of history to Christian people. And I hope that perhaps we will take that as more than a hint, but as something that we ought to do if we're serious about sharing the good news of Jesus Christ with our generation. Do please visit our website. Write to me with any questions you might have about the Christian faith. I always enjoy hearing from people. Now, the details are on the screen now, and I look forward to seeing you again when we meet at the same time again next week. Thank you that you've chosen that Wesley Impact should be part of your life, and you've joined us today. And I look forward to the opportunity of sharing further with you stories about God in Christ, but stories also of the work of his people in our community today. May God bless you. See you at the same time next week.
Wesley Mission walks alongside people of all ages struggling with homelessness, addictions, mental health issues and financial stress. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.